We took a brand from 4K days to 15K days in less than 14 days using our creative strategy with meta ads. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what we did so we can achieve these kind of results for this client in the European market. Now, in case we haven't met, I'm George. I'm the co-founder of AdVirals Media, which is a performance marketing agency that's working with 7 and 8-figure e-com brands across the world, doing Meta, Google, TikTok, and creative strategy. Let me show you the insides of this brand. So we're inside Triple Whale's dashboard, and we can see we've generated 238,000 euros because, like I said, this client is in the European market at a 2.2 ROAS with 107K in ad spend. Now, what you can see from this dashboard and what's really important is that the margins are obviously healthy. We have over 80% margin, which is insane. And this is exactly what I'm looking for when we're onboarding new clients, making sure they have the right numbers, the right costs, they know what they are. So we can obviously be able to spend more. And like Hormozy said, whoever can spend more on a new customer will obviously win. Now, just by looking at this dashboard, you can see how we took this brand from, 4, 5, even 6Ks in some rare days, all the way up to 11, 12, and even record days like 15K on July 5th. Now, you can also see we've increased the spend gradually, right? And so did the ROAS, right? You can see the ROAS going from 1.8 to 9 all the way up to 2.4, 2.3, even 2.6, which is insane because the break even on this brand is around 1.6. So let me break down the exact things we've done to get here. Just to give you some context, this is not a drop shipping store. This was not some limited time drop, right? It's solving a real problem in a high demand market. And like I said at the beginning of the video, the margins are insanely healthy. I'm always looking at brands and I want to make sure that most of the e-com brands have a 65% plus margin so we can be able to scale. Now, taking this as an example, this was obviously made by my friend ChatGPT, but you can see here, which is a great example, right? If you were to run your brand on a 65% margin, right, and you would sell a product for $100 and the COGS would be $35, you would account for a $10 in shipping fee, you would have a break-even CPA at $55, right? Not accounting for any, ops, any agency fees or whatever. I'm just looking at, plain mathematics and just making sure like what's the exact margin of the product that you're running with. And so this is like, imagine that this would allow you to spend $55 on every new acquisition you have on your e-com, right? On the other side, if you would have to run on a 40% margin, then you would have around $30 in ad spend. So that's obviously lower. And so you would miss on a $25. Now, to put it more simple, if you're running on a 65% margin, you would have an additional $25 to spend on your customer acquisition, right? Now, imagine that this client had an 80% margin, which again is insane. So that was like number one, the main reason why this works and it's going to keep on working. And then, like I said, make sure you know your numbers before you even start scaling so you know exactly how much you can bear. Now, the other thing is this client was in the European market. When you look at Europe, you don't look at one market, right? You look at different countries, and each country needs some sort of localized marketing strategy because France is obviously more different than Netherlands, and Austria is different than Hungary, and so on and so forth. So as you go to Western Europe, you'll have a totally different type of buyer compared to the Eastern European people. So what we did is basically create landing pages specific to the country we're advertising in, right? And so that allowed us to come up with both ads translated with AI as well as landing pages translated with AI that are localized, right? So then people wouldn't have to speak English in order to buy. So the language barrier was not there. That allowed us to spend more. The third thing that was actually super important in this collaboration was the offer testing. From day one, when we started, we mentioned, okay, cool, the offer is not strong enough. So what we did is we looked inside Shopify, we realized that people are actually buying two products that could have been a bundle. And so we did that. We created a new bundle that came up with some free gifts that would obviously increase the perceived value of that offer. And so imagine, like in this example, if you initially sell a premium t-shirt that's $20 off today and you would test it against a premium t-shirt that's a buy two get one free for $39.99, which is, by the way, very similar to what we did, is we were able to spend more, get an increased AOV, and actually be more profitable. Now, for those of you that are looking at apps and that are using Shopify as their websites, I would recommend you use either visually A/B testing if you're starting out, or if you're a high growth e-com store that's willing to spend more, then you can use Shoplift because that's a little bit more expensive. Now, let's look at the other thing that allowed us to identify what works and what not so that we can scale further. Like I said, we ran on multiple countries, which was like super hard for us to keep track on without our system in place. So you can see here, this is just an example of the campaign naming convention, but imagine that every ad set, every ad has a different naming convention. So just to give you an example, for the ads, we were always using the type of the ad, the creator name, the editor's name, just because we have more in our teams and we want to know the performance per brand. We got the angle, we got the avatar, and then we got the date of the launch, right? So then we know, for example, if we want to look back in August, like what worked in July, we can always do that. If we want to look at, okay, what are the creators that are working, then we can obviously do that because we know it, we track it. So always ask yourself, like, how do you know what works if you don't track it, right? That was super important for us. And in order for us to save more time, and since AI is taking over, right, we're using AI to analyze all this data in our internal platform, right? And so we know exactly every single week when we're doing the creative strategy briefs, we know what worked, what didn't work. And this is how we're able to scale brands past $1 million per month. And this is the exact same strategy that we've used for this client. Now, if you have an e-com store that's doing at least $50,000 a month and you want to take it one step further, then this is what we do all day. We can help you with Meta, Google, TikTok, and creative strategies. Book a free audit, and we're going to take a look inside your Shopify, inside your ads account. We're going to come up with a solution for you that you can either implement it yourself or with us. No questions asked.